Jeff's Superscript is brought to you by Black Cat Comics and Collectibles, in my opinion, the best comic shop and clubhouse on the internet. Make sure to follow them at Black Cat Burbank on Instagram and ask them about their Stray Cats Club for special perks. Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where I take a look at all the new comic books coming out on either November 16th or 17th, 2021, and I ask myself the question, what one comic book would I buy this week if I could buy just one book? I tend to make exceptions from time to time in these videos, and this is another week where I am going to make a little bit of an exception. I kind of have my just one book pick for the week, and I have my pick for you this week. So a little bit of a mix-up that I'm going to be doing here, but we'll get more into that in just a moment. First, let's take a look back to my pick from 2 weeks ago, which was Newburn, issue number 1. And the question remains, was it a worthy and worthwhile pick to be my just one book pick of the week? And the answer is yes. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought it was really entertaining. It's kind of it kind of had a slow start, which a lot of new books tend to have, you know. This book appears to be in for the long haul. So it basically just kind of set up who the character was, what the premise is, what type of person he is, what his situation is, all of which I found very interesting. If you didn't hear me talk about this book 2 weeks ago, basically he's like a private detective who is on retainer from all the different mob families in this town, and if the mob has a problem or a mystery that they need solved, they ask this guy to handle it. And it was kind of a little bit of a typical thing where he's solving the mystery. It seems like it's pretty clear what the situation's going to be. There's a twist. And then, but what was most kind of interesting and original to it was how he reacted to the twist. Also, what is interesting and original about it is the premise of him working for the mob and kind of having, you know, the mob is fighting against each other, but they respect him and his place working for all of them. It's an interesting premise, and I'm interested to see where it's going to go. So I would say it is a worthy and worthwhile book. I am going to keep reading it. If you read Newburn, let me know down in the comments, did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know what your thoughts of it were. All right, let's go ahead and move forward with the books that are coming out this week. As always, I'm going to have my 5 honorable mentions and then my just one book pick. But once again, I'm going to mix things up a little bit. I have a pick for me, and I have a pick for you. My first honorable mention this week is a new book, kind of. It's actually a new old book. Let me get into it. The book is Fantastic Four Anniversary Tribute, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. 60 years ago, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby made history and brought about the beginning of the Marvel Age of Comics with the release of Fantastic Four number 1. Now, a bevy of Marvel's finest creators pay tribute to that monumental moment by reinterpreting, page by page, the story from that inaugural release, as well as Fantastic Four Annual number 3, in which the entirety of the Marvel Universe attended the wedding of Reed Richards and Sue Storm. Whether these are stories you've never read before or tales that you're intimately familiar with, this is a perfect way to experience them anew. You know what? That final sentence basically summed it up. Whether these are stories you've never read before or tales that you're intimately familiar with, this is the perfect way to experience them anew. I have never read Fantastic Four issue number 1. Why? Because it's super expensive, and there's no way that people are just kind of buying it to casually read. I'm sure that there are collected editions or different ways that you could get your hands on this story. It's probably been many different ways over the decades since this book came out to do that. Well, this is just another one. So if you're looking for one, this one is a little expensive. It is going to cost you $7, but you're going to get Fantastic Four issue number 1, plus you're going to get the annual number 3. 2 solid stories. The Fantastic Four is a group that I've never really gravitated toward, but they're some of the premier comic book characters out there. So I could see absolutely wanting to have read Fantastic Four issue number 1 specifically, so that you can say, yes, I'm familiar with the starting point of the Fantastic Four as characters. And this could be a cool way to do that by seeing all these different artists kind of dip their ink, so to speak, in this issue. So it could be entertaining for the fan and for the future fan, and considering that the Fantastic Four is going to be coming into the MCU and is probably going to be a major part of it, this might be a nice little primer for when that day eventually comes. All right, the next book I want to mention to you is Wonder Woman Evolution, issue number 1 from DC. Here's the description. Whisked away from Earth by a distant cosmic entity, Wonder Woman is forced to navigate a series of perilous challenges that push her to the brink both mentally and physically. At stake is the fate of all humanity, with the alien entities casting Diana as Earth's proxy for a trial judging humankind's worthiness to exist in the universe. Can Diana stand trial to save humanity without losing her own? Harley Quinn's Stephanie Phillips teams with acclaimed artist Mike Hawthorne for his first major DC project, an epic Wonder Woman tale unlike any other. Okay, that is my favorite word to describe comics that I am interested in. Sounds interesting. Wonder Woman is out in space, someplace we don't see her very frequently, and is standing on trial representing all of humanity. Okay, I mean, listen, to be quite honest, if humanity was going to be represented by any one person or comic book character, I'd put Wonder Woman pretty high up on that list. She's pretty fantastic and pretty a pretty great example of what is best in humanity. So it could be a pretty cool story, an interesting story. It sounds like it's mostly for the hardcore Wonder Woman fan. I doubt that a casual Wonder Woman fan is going to be very interested in it. But if you are a Wonder Woman fan, I definitely would recommend checking this out. And I don't know, maybe it sounds like an interesting concept to you, and that might be another reason to check it out. All right, the next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is Robins, issue number 1 of a 6-issue limited series from DC. Here's the description. Being Robin, Part 1. The 5 heroes who have donned the Robin cape and mask find themselves at a crossroads in their lives. Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake, Stephanie Brown, and Damian Wayne come together to discuss the big thing that binds them together. Was being Robin and Batman's sidekick the best choice they could have made? But before they can get to the heart of the matter, they're ambushed by an unknown assailant with a bone to pick with them. She claims to have been the first Robin, and she's out to prove Batman should have never trained any of them. Winner of DC's Round Robin Tournament, as chosen by you, the readers. Okay, I think this is 2 weeks in a row now that we have kind of Robin-focused stories, and I'm okay with that. I like Robin-focused stories. Batman's shadow is very large, and to be in Batman's shadow is a very dark place to be. It's easy to not get any attention paid to you when you are Batman's sidekick. So I'm glad to see a little bit of focus put on Robins, because there's been a lot of cool stories and character development around the various people who have filled the role of Robin. So putting them all together in a room and seeing what kind of conversations come out of that is really, really cool and interesting. I've mentioned in videos before, one of my favorite things to think about is a Chris Claremont quote that I'd heard before, where he likes the idea of putting together characters that are kind of have come from opposing backgrounds or opposing ways of thinking, and putting them together in a room, and in his head just kind of letting that scenario play out. Well, this is a good example of how that could be a very entertaining read. So for a limited series, I think that this could be something worth checking out from a reading standpoint alone. Okay, let's go ahead and move forward with my next honorable mention by segueing into one of my favorite segments to have here in my Just One Book videos, and that is Tyne in Time. Yes, it is another edition of Tyne in Time. The first book that I want to mention this week in Tyne in Time is Batman number 117 from DC. Here is the description. As the full scope of the Scarecrow's plans is revealed, a bloodied Dark Knight fights for his life and all the lives in Gotham City against an unrelenting, unstoppable opponent. The shocking conclusion to Fear State is here. Will Batman ever be the same? And then in the B story, after what happened in the Magistrate's Skybase 01, nowhere is safe, and the Batgirls hide out in a hotel room until Babs arrives offering a plan for their future. Seer, the anti-oracle, is revealed here, and who they are will make you question everything you see moving forward in Gotham. Okay. This is James Tynion IV's last issue of Batman, if you don't include the Batman annual for this year, which will be coming out, I believe, in about 3 weeks. So I'm going to choose not to include the annual because I do not believe that the annual is going to touch on the Fear State storyline at all. I think it's going to focus a lot on the Ghostmaker storyline that was the B story in Batman for a while there. And a lot of times these annuals are quite separate. But that being said, I am treating this as the last issue from James Tynion IV. So I have a feeling that he's going to want to go out with a bit of a bang. He knew this was going to be the end, so I'm sure he wants to wrap it up in a pretty cool way. And as you all know, I'm a big James Tynion IV fan. Now, I know that there are people that have different opinions about his run on Batman. His run on Batman is not my favorite thing that he is doing. However, I've really been enjoying it. So I am definitely interested in seeing how he wraps things up. Batman is a big deal, and walking away from Batman for James Tynion IV is a big deal. So I would think that he would make his ending, in turn, a big deal. That being said, DC controls Batman. So James Tynion IV is not going to be able to do whatever he wants with the character or with the world of Gotham City on his way out the door. They may have been saving a little bit for the next person to kind of like drive people to the book after James Tynion IV leaves. So maybe this will just be kind of an ending that doesn't have like much excitement, but I'm still excited about it myself. So I had to definitely put it on my honorable mentions this week. And the next book in my Tyne in Time, which is also my last honorable mention, is actually my personal Just One Book pick for the week. This is the book that I am most excited about this week. My pick for you and for the video is a cool book that I'm excited about as well. But this one, I'm just like, I just love this series so much. And the series is The Nice House on the Lake. The issue is number 6 from DC. Here's the description. The house has an 11th guest. Reg is here. And that was never part of the plan. Or was it? Everything you know gets turned upside down in this issue, ending on a cliffhanger that will have to hold you until the house reopens in March 2022. So as that says, this is the mid-season finale of The Nice House on the Lake, and it will not be returning until March of next year, which is a bummer. But you have to think that I think they knew that they were breaking this up into two parts. And it seems like there are going to be some interesting revelations that might come out of this issue. So it's my hope that there's something exciting enough there that will hold me and I guess other fans of the title over until the book comes back in March. That being said, I keep hearing people talking about how much they love The Nice House on the Lake. It's not just me, folks. I actually just watched a video this afternoon from Jim Mint here on YouTube, and he talked about his 10 favorite ongoing series currently. And The Nice House on the Lake was one of them. I think they were number 6 on his list or something like that. But regardless of his ranking of this book, I went down into the comments and it was like comment after comment. The Nice House on the Lake, The Nice House on the Lake, The Nice House on the Lake, The Nice House on the Lake. People are really enjoying this book. And so it's not, for a while there, I thought it might just be me because I felt like I didn't hear enough people talking about this book. But it seems like in typical James Tynion IV fashion, people who are reading the book are really, really enjoying it. So if you, for some reason, you haven't started reading this book and you're like, it's at issue number 6, Jeff, I'm way too far behind, do yourself a favor. Find issues 1 through 6. Pick them up, read them. They're really, really good. And I'm super excited about reading issue number 6 coming out this week. However, it is not my just one book pick for this week. This was like I said, this was a weird week for me where I really just wanted The Nice House on the Lake to be my pick. But then this book that was my pick was kind of a late entry for me. It wasn't necessarily a book that I was interested in until I started researching for this video. And as I started researching for this video, I was like, you know what? This could be a pretty great book. So I'm going to make it my pick this week. My just one book pick for this week is Radio Apocalypse, issue number 1 from Vault Comics. Here's the description. Long after the rock out of space struck the world and turned it all to dust, in Bakerstown stands the last radio station on the planet. Radio Apocalypse, broadcasting into the unknown, a beacon in the dark for those who wander the lost places. Now, change is coming to Bakerstown. Among the refugees flocking to an already precarious settlement, an orphan boy, Rion, caught in an indiscretion, will twine his fate with the radio station, and in doing so, begin this mixtape of love and heartbreak and interminable hope. This soundtrack to the end of the world. Okay, so in a lot of ways, this is a bit of a cliche premise. We have had end of the world stories maybe as long as the world has been around, so this is nothing new. But there's something about this premise that sounds interesting to me about how, humanity is basically gathering around this radio station and about how the radio station is reaching out to the world. I mean, it is a radio station after all. It brings up questions of how are people receiving these radio signals and things like that. But hopefully they get into that in this story. But it sounds like it could be a cool story and a cool world and a cool kind of environment for storytelling. And some of you might be thinking, well, yeah, but Jeff, none of that in and of itself sounds like makes it worthy to be a just one book pick. Well, for me, what put it over the top is the fact that it's written by Ram V. Ram V is a writer who is getting more and more attention, much deserved. Ram V is currently working on the new Venom book with Al Ewing. We'll talk more about that next week. But Ram V is a writer whose star is on the rise. And this usually happens because they're good. And so, as someone whose star is on the rise, I'd like to think that they are hungry and that they are doing their best work possible. And that when you have a creator-owned title like Radio Apocalypse coming from a writer on the rise like Ram V, part of me is kind of like, all right, let's go ahead and stand up and take notice. So the fact that the premise sounds pretty cool to me and seems pretty ripe for awesome storytelling, and that it's coming from a pretty substantial writer like Ram V, these are the reasons why my just one book pick for this week, basically for you, because if you're not already reading The Nice House on the Lake, and I haven't been able to convince you to do so, I doubt I was able to convince you to do it this week, but I'm thinking if you weren't currently reading any ongoing series, if you weren't currently invested in any storyline or any title, and you were looking for something to check out this week, I would say check out Radio Apocalypse issue number 1. All right, well, that's my list for this week. As always, I ask you to let me know down in the comments if there are any books that you think I missed that you're interested in checking out. If anything from my list is particularly interesting to you, if you think I'm crazy, if you think I'm brilliant, all these things I'd like to hear down in the comments. If you like this video, I encourage you to go ahead and hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.